So we're guilty of every single one of these mistakes that we're about to share with you. And we'd like you to avoid those mistakes that we made so you can have a much nicer time in your process of finding the boat of your dreams. Make sure to stay all the way to the end because we're going to give you an extra bonus tip right at the end that you'll really want to make sure to avoid. So tip number 1 is not budgeting for repairs. It's very easy to just look at the survey and be like, okay, these are all the things I need to repair. These are approximate costs associated with those repairs, and be like, okay, I need $2,000. Well, things on a boat always break. There's always something that's breaking on the boat that you never expected to break, or you were like, oh, I'm sure this thing's not gonna cause me any problems because I just fixed it. Well, no, it could still break even though you just fixed it. So just be aware of that and keep a little bit of your budget aside just for those repairs.
So in our case, when we started repairing some stuff, we realized that there was a lot of diesel smell and stuff dripping. And turns out we actually had to replace a diesel tank, which we didn't really account for.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't on our survey, but that's not really the survey's fault. You can't catch everything.
No. Tip number 2, falling in love. No, falling in love with the first boat you actually go see. Because there's a lot of different boats, and sometimes you can get attached to boats really quickly, especially with the layouts. So in our case, we ended up, one of the first boats we even went to see was that Bayfield 32 in Lewisport. We actually did a movie about that.
Yeah, feel free to check it out. It'll probably be up here somewhere.
And in the description down below. But really, we started just really liking that boat, and we even ended up putting in an offer for that sailboat. But just try to go see many sailboats and then make up your mind into which one you're going to go for, because there's a lot of different ones, and the more you get into that sailing community, the more you're going to be exposed to different layouts, different types of boats, and the more you will talk with people and find out what's good about each and every one of them.
Even going on some friends' boats, even if you don't have any friends that own boats, go hang out at some marinas. People are more than happy to show off their boats and show all their favorite things of their boats. And it just gives you lots of ideas on what you are looking for in your own boat. So tip number 3 is to not trust online pictures. These are the worst sometimes because somebody will take pictures when they freshly cleaned the boat, when they first bought the boat in some cases, and that will be the picture that they use to sell their boat 10 years later. And so you can't trust these pictures. There's all sorts of different things you'll see online. So don't trust the pictures. You want to go see that in person. Don't buy anything sight unseen or anything like that. Just you'll avoid a lot of problems alone with just not doing that.
Yeah, like even with this specific sailboat, we went to go see 2 different Hunter 33s. And if we only went by the pictures, the first one that we stopped to see looked pristine, gorgeous, and the second one was kind of lacking in pictures, which turns out to be the one we ended up buying. But the first one was actually in terrible condition, and the pictures did not reflect that.
Mm-hmm.
Tip number 4, buying a sailboat without having a survey done on that one. Everyone's gonna have their own opinions, but personally, we feel like you should. I mean, we didn't really have much experience in the sailing communities, so it was kind of nice to have an expert, a professional look into the sailboat and tell us what was wrong, what was good about it, and even give us suggestions in how to fix certain things. And it also saved us some money in the end for purchasing the sailboat.
Yeah, I mean, how are you supposed to know what's wrong with the boat if you're first getting into it? You don't even know what you're looking at. You don't even know what this thingamabob does. How are you supposed to be like, oh, that has a crack in it, that shouldn't be there, right? You need somebody that has more knowledge than you when you're first starting out. And I mean, books, there's lots of books out there that can help you survey a boat and do it more on your own. But that's, for us, that was just more of a tool, and that helped us
Pre-survey.
to do a pre-survey and decide, rule out the boats that we knew we didn't want to pay to have a survey done. So that's what that allowed us to do.
Mm-hmm. Because we even had a friend who purchased a sailboat, and didn't try the engine, and then turns out when after buying the boat and getting it in the water, he had to totally replace the motor, which is a huge expense in a sailboat.
Yeah, absolutely. Tip number 5 is blindly believing what sellers tell you. Every seller will be very attached to their boat typically, because boats are almost like children. People fall in love with their boats and will almost find every reason why something is good, even if most of the community believes it's bad. You'll connect with the thing that you own and find the good in the bad, sort of thing. So you'll often find sellers of boats that are adamant that this is the best style of boat, or this is the best thing to have on a boat, because of the fact that they've learned to love it. And so you just got to be aware of that and know that the sellers are motivated to sell both because they want to sell their boat and because they believe it's probably the best boat they've ever had.
And keep in mind that every owner has a specific boat for a specific mean. There's boats that are meant for cruising, some that are meant for more like weekend kind of trips. So what fits someone might not fit yourself. So don't talk to a lot of different people to build your own opinion. Tip number 6 is buying too small of a boat. We've had a lot of different comments on that one of, oh, you should get into the sailing with a small boat because they're more responsive, it's easier to learn on. But then there's also a lot of people that told us, well, if you buy a really small boat, in a year, not even in a year, you're going to want to have something bigger. It's just like you just keep wanting something bigger, it seems like. And in our case, we wanted to live on the boat. So we needed something that we wouldn't be walking on top of each other's all the time. That we would have enough space to put all our gear to do all the outdoor activities that we really enjoy and be comfortable.
Mm-hmm. There's something, I think it's called footitis or something like that, where as she said, you always want something bigger. You're always looking to the bigger boat. It's very difficult to downsize in a boat, but often you'll start off with something somewhat small and work your way up. But don't, as she said, don't start too small to the point where you're going to be uncomfortable and cramped and make yourself not enjoy sailing for the reasons that you want to do it. For us, as she said, we want to cruise. So that's the most important thing. So we have to be able to live on the boat comfortably. And it's not just about going out and day sailing. So you need to figure out what you want your boat for. Tip number 7 is getting too excited before the papers are finally signed and you actually own the boat. Our own experience has taught us that you really don't want to do this. It's an emotional roller coaster buying a boat if you allow yourself to do this, because we got very excited about a boat that we put an offer in, and we were sure that we were planning the survey, we were planning all the details that
it was going to be our boat. Like, I could picture myself into the thing,
but it wasn't meant to be. The owner decided last minute that he wanted to keep his boat, and that's great, but we ended up being heartbroken because we fell in love with the boat, but we hadn't signed the papers yet. So just keep in mind that until those papers are signed, that boat is not yours.
Yep. Thanks for staying till the end of our 7 tips for buying a sailboat, and here's the last one. Bonus! Be careful who you buy the sailboat from. We've met a lot of different people, and you want to be careful as to who's the broker if you're not buying the sailboat from an actual owner, because brokers, there's some great ones, but there's also a lot of them that are there to, all of them are there to make some money, so they have a bit of a bias into the boat. And more specifically, just if you're asking for old previous surveys, just make sure that the broker is not the same person that actually did the survey, because there's a bit of a conflict of interest there. So really be wary of who you're buying the boat from and who has done the surveys on them.
Yep. And as she said, ask for those surveys, because that really helps you in knowing what was done to the boat in the past. You'll learn a lot from an old survey without actually having to do one yourself. So that's a super powerful little pro tip. If you guys liked hearing these 7 tips plus a bonus, please let us know down below. We'd love to hear your comments. We read them all.
If you have any tips to share with us, please feel free to write them down in the comments down below. And all those 7 things to avoid doing when buying a sailboat are from our own personal experiences, and we'll put some links in the description down below from the different videos we've made on those.
See you guys next time.
Be careful who you buy this sailboat for. Bastard!